The Stoic secret to staying unbothered when everything falls apart. Here's the painful truth nobody wants to say out loud. Most people spend their entire lives waiting for things to calm down before they allow themselves to feel okay. Waiting for the debt to disappear, waiting for the relationship to heal, waiting for the career to finally click, waiting for the fear to pass, waiting for life to stop throwing punches long enough for them to catch a breath. And life never does. So they suffer twice, once from the actual problem, and once from the crushing belief that happiness is somewhere on the other side of it. But what if that belief is the real problem? What if peace isn't something you find when the storm ends, but something you carry into the storm with you? The ancient Stoics knew something that most modern psychology is only now beginning to confirm. The external world cannot touch you without your permission, not permanently, not at the root. Today, we're going to prove that. Not with theory, with a story, a real one, from a man who had every reason to collapse, and didn't. The year is 170 AD. The most powerful man alive is not sleeping in a palace. He is sitting in a leather tent on the frozen northern frontier of the Roman Empire, surrounded by the smell of smoke and mud and sickness. Outside, barbarian tribes press against Rome's borders. Inside the camp, plague is killing his soldiers faster than any enemy could. His name is Marcus Aurelius. And he is writing in a journal he never intended anyone to read. Not proclamations, not philosophy for the ages, just a man, the most decorated, burdened man on earth, trying to hold himself together in the dark. He writes, "You have power over your mind, not outside events, realize this, and you will find strength." Simple words, except they weren't simple to write, not from where he was sitting. Think about what Marcus is carrying in this moment. His co-emperor has just died, leaving him to rule alone. The Antonine Plague, carried back from Parthia by his own returning soldiers, is ripping through Rome. Estimates put the death toll at 5 million people. His empire is hemorrhaging, his armies are thinning, and on the northern border, Germanic tribes are pushing harder than any enemy Rome has faced in a generation. And Marcus himself, he is in chronic physical pain, possibly stomach ulcers, possibly the early stages of the plague itself. He barely sleeps, he barely eats. And yet, when you read the Meditations, the private journal he kept during these campaigns, there is no hysteria, no self-pity, no catastrophizing about what he cannot control. Instead, there is this. Confine yourself to the present. Waste no more time arguing about what a good man should be one. The impediment to action advances action. What stands in the way becomes the way. He is not pretending that pain doesn't exist. He is not performing strength for an audience. This is a private journal. No one is watching. He is genuinely working through the discipline of not being destroyed by what he cannot control. Because here's what Marcus understood, not as a slogan, but as a daily practice. He could not stop the plague. He could not bring back the dead. He could not make the barbarians retreat, or restore the empire's peace, or fix his own body. None of that was within his control. What was within his control was his response. The lens through which he chose to see each day, the posture of his mind when he woke each morning to a world that was, by any objective measure, on fire. He describes one of his core disciplines like this: when something threatens to disturb you, pause. Ask yourself, is this within my control, or is it outside my control? If it's outside, release it, completely, not reluctantly, not with one hand still clutching. Release it as if it never belonged to you, because it didn't. And if it is within your control, then act. Stop complaining, stop waiting, move. That's it. 2 questions. 1 discipline, practice daily, in one of the most brutal contexts a human being has ever faced. And somehow, against all odds, it worked. Marcus did not collapse. He did not become cruel, or numb, or reckless. He led with clarity. He continued to write with honesty. He ruled with restraint during one of the most violent periods in Roman history. Not because life got easier, but because he became harder to break. Here's the psychological subtext of Marcus's story, and why it matters to your life right now. Modern psychology has a name for what Marcus was practicing: cognitive diffusion. It's a cornerstone of acceptance and commitment therapy. The core insight is deceptively simple. Suffering doesn't come primarily from hard events. It comes from our fusion with our thoughts about those events. When your business fails, the failure itself lasts a season, but the story you tell yourself about what the failure means, about who you are, about what you deserve, about what's possible for you now, that story can last a lifetime. Marcus wasn't suppressing his emotions. He writes openly about grief, about anger, about the weight of responsibility, but he had trained himself, daily, deliberately, not to be governed by those emotions. There's a difference between feeling something and being consumed by it. Here's the second layer, the piece most people miss. Marcus didn't wait until things were calm to start practicing equanimity. He practiced it precisely because things were not calm. That's the entire point. Most of us operate on a deeply flawed assumption that our mental state is a product of our circumstances, that we'll feel good when good things happen, and we'll feel bad when bad things happen, and that's just how it works. The Stoics called this slavery, and they meant it literally. If your peace depends on your circumstances staying favorable, then you are enslaved to your circumstances. Every piece of bad news owns a piece of you. Every difficult person has leverage over your day. Every setback rewrites your internal weather. The alternative, what Marcus was building, line by line in that cold tent, is an inner architecture, a structure of values, habits, and practiced responses that doesn't require favorable conditions to hold. Viktor Frankl described the same thing from inside a Nazi concentration camp. Between stimulus and response there's a space. In that space is our power to choose our response. In our response lies our growth and our freedom. Same insight, 2,000 years apart. Which means this is not a philosophy, it's a human truth. And here's what that means practically. The goal is not to become someone who never gets knocked down. The goal is to become someone whose foundation is not located where the hits land. So how do you actually build this? Not as a concept, as a practice. For exercises, taken directly from Stoic philosophy and backed by modern psychology, start with 1. Go deep before you go wide. Step 1, the evening audit. Every evening, Seneca, one of Rome's sharpest minds, would ask himself 3 questions before sleep. What did I do wrong today? What did I do well? What could I do differently? Not as punishment, as calibration. Here's how to practice it. Take 5 minutes, just 5, before bed. No phone in your hand. Write 3 honest sentences, 1 for each question. Don't perform for yourself. Don't make it prettier than it was. The point is not guilt. The point is that you are taking your day back from the noise. You are putting your own judgment above your reflexes. You are becoming, slowly, the author of your behavior instead of just the subject of it. Do this for 30 days. Watch what it does to your decision-making. Step 2, the dichotomy filter. When something disturbs you, write it down, then ask 1 question. Is this within my control or outside my control? And be ruthless about the categories. What people think of you, not yours. Whether you get the promotion, not entirely yours. Your effort is. The outcome isn't. Your reaction to the rejection, yours, completely. Marcus didn't stop caring about Rome because he practiced this. He cared more effectively. He stopped bleeding energy on what he couldn't move, and directed everything he had toward what he could. Try this for 1 week. Every time you feel your mood being pulled by something external, stop and run the filter. It takes 10 seconds. And over time, it rewires the default response. Step 3, voluntary discomfort. The Stoics practiced something called premeditatio malorum, the premeditation of adversity. Not pessimism, not doom scrolling, something far more precise. Once a week, sit quietly and walk through a worst-case scenario relevant to your current life. Don't flinch from it, see it clearly, then ask, if this happened, what would I do? How would I respond? What resources do I actually have? Two things happen when you do this honestly. First, most fears shrink. They are enormous in the dark and manageable in the light. Second, and this is the deeper gift, you begin to trust yourself in a new way. You realize that you are not as fragile as the anxiety was telling you, that you have handled hard things before, that you will handle hard things again. Marcus wrote, "Never let the future disturb you. You will meet it, if you have to, with the same weapons of reason which today arm you against the present." That's not bravado, that's earned confidence, built through honest confrontation with what might come. Step 4, amor fati, love what is. This is the most advanced of the four, and the most transformative. Amor fati, Latin for love of fate. Not acceptance as resignation, not whatever, fine. Something fiercer than that. The practice is this: the next time something goes wrong, something real, something that costs you, instead of immediately reaching for the silver lining or the lesson or the positive reframe, just sit with it for a moment, fully, without softening it. And then ask, what if this isn't happening to me, but for me? Every scar Marcus carried made his philosophy more honest. Every scar you carry is doing the same thing, if you let it. The goal is not to pretend that hard things are secretly easy. The goal is to stop treating difficulty as evidence that something has gone fundamentally wrong with your life. Nothing has gone wrong. This is the life, the one that was always going to include loss and failure and fear and uncertainty, because that is what every human life includes. The question was never whether you'd face the storm. The question is who you'll be while you're inside it. Marcus Aurelius lived for 9 more years after the worst of the Antonine Plague. He never stopped fighting, on the frontier, in the courtroom, in his own mind. He never got a clean break, the problems never fully resolved. But in the final lines of the Meditations, there is no bitterness. There is only this quiet instruction, written to himself, found by the rest of us 2,000 years later. Do not indulge in dreams of what you have not got. Count up the blessings you actually possess, and think how much you would have longed for them if you hadn't got them. But at the same time, don't be overjoyed at these things to such an extent that you would be upset if they failed you. He wasn't teaching us to be cold. He was teaching us to be free. Free from the tyranny of conditions, free from the hostage-taking of events we cannot control, free, most importantly, from the lie that our well-being lives somewhere out there, in the next outcome, the next approval, the next calm stretch of water. It doesn't live out there. It never did. The world will continue to be difficult, people will disappoint you, plans will fall apart, circumstances will conspire against the life you're trying to build. This is not a setback. This is the curriculum. And the Stoics, those ancient, underslept, overloaded, profoundly human people, left us the entire course of study, written in the margins of their own suffering, proven in the fire of real experience. The only question that remains is whether you'll use it. If this kind of wisdom speaks to you, if you're serious about building a mind that doesn't break when things do, then stay with this channel. We go deep here, every single time. There's more where this came from. And you're going to need it.